Did you know there are olive groves in the Middle East where some villagers still refuse to walk alone after sunset? Not because of thieves, not because of wild animals, but because of something older. Something that, according to generations of stories, waits among the trees and knows exactly how to lure people into the dark. For centuries, olive trees have covered the hills of Palestine. Their twisted trunks have witnessed empires rise and fall, wars come and go, and countless generations work the same land. To outsiders, these groves appear peaceful, beautiful even, but among many villages, there is an old warning that parents still whisper to their children. If you hear your name being called from the olive grove after dark, don't answer. And whatever you do, don't follow the voice. The story begins in a small village nestled among rolling hills lined with ancient olive trees. For generations, the villagers harvested olives every autumn. Entire families would gather among the groves from sunrise until sunset. Life followed familiar rhythms: work, prayer, family, tradition, and stories, especially stories. Among the oldest was a legend about creatures known as ghouls. According to local folklore, ghouls were not ghosts, they were not demons, and they were not animals. They existed somewhere in between. Shapeshifters, tricksters, predators, creatures that hid at the edges of the human world. Most villagers dismissed such tales as old superstition, but not everyone. The elders often spoke about travelers who vanished while crossing olive groves at night. Some were eventually found wandering miles from where they disappeared, confused, terrified, unable to explain where they had been. Others were never found at all. Whenever such disappearances occurred, whispers spread through the village. The ghouls are hunting again. One autumn evening, a young man named Karim heard those stories firsthand. Karim was 23 years old, practical, educated, and deeply skeptical of old folklore. He believed every mystery had a logical explanation. Every ghost story had a human origin. Every legend was simply fear passed down through generations. When his grandfather warned him never to cross the western grove after dark, Karim laughed. "You're telling me a monster lives in an olive field?" His grandfather did not laugh. Instead, the old man stared silently toward the hills. Then he said something Karim would remember for the rest of his life. "The danger isn't what you see, it's what you trust." A few weeks later, Karim would understand exactly what he meant. The olive harvest arrived. Workers spent long days among the trees collecting fruit before winter. One evening, delays forced Karim to remain in the grove later than usual. By the time he finished loading baskets onto his truck, the sun had already disappeared behind the hills. Darkness spread quickly. The wind became colder. The grove grew quiet. First, nothing seemed unusual. Then he heard his name. Karim. The voice came from somewhere among the trees. He stopped. The grove was empty. He waited. Silence. Then it came again. Karim. This time it sounded closer. The voice belonged to his younger brother. At least it sounded like his younger brother. Karim frowned. His brother should have been at home. He called out. No response. Then he saw movement. A figure standing between two olive trees. And watching. Karim. The figure turned and disappeared deeper into the grove. For a moment, Karim considered following. Then he remembered his grandfather's warning. Instead, he returned to his truck and drove home. When he arrived, his brother was sitting at the dinner table. He had never left the house. The experience unsettled Karim, but he convinced himself there was a reasonable explanation. Exhaustion, darkness, a trick of the mind. Then the reports began. Within days, several villagers described hearing familiar voices in the grove after sunset. One woman heard her deceased mother's voice. A shepherd heard his missing cousin. Another man claimed he heard a child crying for help. Each story ended the same way. The voice always came from deeper among the trees. The village grew uneasy. Then a shepherd vanished. His name was Nasser. He disappeared while leading sheep near the western grove. Search parties were organized immediately. For 2 days, dozens of volunteers searched the surrounding hills. They found nothing. No footprints, no clothing, no signs of struggle. Nothing. Then on the 3rd day Nasser appeared. He emerged from the grove shortly before dawn, barefoot, covered in scratches, terrified. Witnesses said he looked as though he had aged years in just 3 days. When questioned, his answers made little sense. He claimed he had followed the voice of his late father. The voice led him through the grove, deeper and deeper. At first he believed someone was playing a prank. Then he noticed something strange. No matter how far he walked, he never seemed to leave the grove. The trees continued endlessly in every direction. The moon never moved. Time seemed frozen. Occasionally he caught glimpses of figures watching him. Tall figures, thin figures, human-shaped shadows standing motionless among the trunks. Whenever he approached them, they vanished. Searchers later checked the area. The grove was small. Crossing it should have taken minutes. Yet somehow Nasser had wandered for nearly 3 days. No explanation was ever found. After that incident, the old stories returned stronger than ever. Some villagers stopped entering the western grove entirely. Others refused to remain after sunset. Yet curiosity persisted, especially among younger residents. One of them was a university student named Samira. Unlike earlier generations, she carried modern equipment: cameras, audio recorders, GPS devices. She wanted evidence, not stories. Determined to uncover the truth, she organized a small overnight investigation. 3 volunteers joined her. They entered the grove shortly before sunset. The first few hours passed quietly. Equipment functioned normally. No strange activity occurred. Then midnight arrived. At exactly 12:14 in the morning, one recorder captured an unusual sound. Voice, almost whispering. The volunteers could not identify the language, but everyone heard it. Moments later, one member of the group reported seeing movement between the trees. A dark silhouette, too tall, too thin, standing perfectly still. They shined flashlights toward it. Nothing was there. Then the GPS devices began malfunctioning. Each displayed different locations. Some suggested they were miles apart despite standing together. The volunteers grew nervous. Several wanted to leave. Then came the scream. A loud human scream echoed through the grove. It sounded close, dangerously close. Without thinking, one volunteer ran toward the sound. The others followed. They sprinted through the darkness for several minutes. Branches scraped their faces. Roots snagged their feet. The scream continued ahead. Always ahead. Never closer. Finally, Samira stopped. Something felt wrong. She turned off her flashlight. The others did the same. Silence filled the grove. Then they noticed it. Dozens of pale shapes standing among the trees. Butching. Not moving. Butching. No one spoke. No one moved. After several seconds, the shapes disappeared into darkness. The group immediately abandoned the investigation. When they reviewed the recordings later, the scream was missing. So were several minutes of footage. Nobody could explain why. Years passed. The stories continued. Travelers reported hearing familiar voices. Farmers reported seeing strange figures. Children repeated warnings taught by parents and grandparents. Most dismissed the tales. Yet every so often, another unexplained incident occurred. A missing person. A mysterious sighting. An encounter nobody could fully explain. Today, skeptics argue the phenomenon is psychological. Ancient groves can be disorienting. Fear can distort perception. Folklore can influence memory. Perhaps that is all there is to it. But others are not convinced. Because one detail appears again and again. Cross villages. Cross generations. Cross decades. The voices always know the victim's name. And according to the oldest versions of the legend, that is how the hunt begins. The ghoul does not chase, does not attack, simply calls, and waits for someone to follow. Even now, some elders refuse to discuss the Western Grove after dark. Others insist the creatures vanished long ago. Yet on quiet nights, when the wind moves through the olive branches and the hills fall silent, there are still reports. Voice, a whisper, a familiar call coming from somewhere among the trees. And if the stories are true, the ghouls are still there, waiting between the trunks, watching from the shadows, patient as the ancient olive trees themselves. Because some predators hunt with claws. Others hunt with trust. And according to Palestinian folklore, the most dangerous creatures are the ones that already sound like someone you love. If you enjoy real-life mysteries, folklore horrors, and terrifying legends from around the world, subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Because somewhere among the ancient olive groves, a voice may still be calling someone's name tonight.